Good evening, and welcome to the 5-8, where we discuss each of the week's 5 most fucked up topics for 8 minutes. 5 topics, 8 minutes, 2 hosts, a guest, some singing, a lot of curse words, and as many cocktails as we deem necessary. LB, how are you?
I'm well. I don't require any cocktails tonight. I'm feeling good.
That's good to hear.
Doing well. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm having a different cocktail tonight. I'm having a White Russian tonight.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yummy.
It just seems more in line with, what we're going to discuss on the show. I heard a joke. Do you want to hear my joke?
Yes.
Okay, so a MAGA, a radical Catholic, and a tech bro walk into a bar, and the bartender says, "Hi, JD Vance. What can I get you?" And JD Vance says, "I would like a donut. And how long have you worked here?" That's it. That's my joke.
Yeah.
It's good.
Okay.
I just made that up now. Like
you
during
just
the
made
credits.
It up right now?
During the credits.
Yeah. I think you need to workshop it a little bit more.
Yeah.
Just a little workshopping.
Yeah.
But yeah. I would add some more. I know we have to do it in threes, but maybe we pick some other things too for him.
I think
all of the things and yet a non-person at the same time. It's fascinating to me.
It is. It's like
There's
a black hole.
Nothing there.
Right. Yeah.
But all the gross stuff, but only the sort of marketing material for the gross stuff. Only the catchphrases and the sort of like log lines.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Of ideas, but not an entity.
He's everything and nothing. He's the alpha and the omega. I don't know. Maybe he's got 666 tattooed somewhere on there by the eyeliner. I don't know. Very, very biblical looking.
Under the wig.
I don't know.
Sure.
All right. We should hurry along here. Yeah, we should hurry along. We want to get to our guest.
Yeah, I want to get to our guest. Okay. So, hi, everybody.
Hi. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, I didn't ask you, how was your week?
My week was fun. It was uneventful. It was an uneventful week for the most part. How was your week?
I said I'm good. It was.
Yeah, it's good.
It's fine.
I got nothing.
It's glory October beauty where I live. Like breathtaking fall, so beautiful. I can't even put words around it. An eagle decided to just accompany me yesterday for a little bit.
That's pretty cool.
Town. I was in town, and here's a bald eagle. It's just like, incredible. So that's all I need.
That's it. That's like a highlight for a good at least 2 weeks, maybe even 3. A bald eagle's flying alongside you.
And I had forgotten to tell my family, so they're watching this and they're going to see it because I was on the phone with Rosanna, and I'm like, "Bald eagle!"
Did the bald eagle try to like peck at your fingers?
No. He just was, Donald. He was just sort of drafting off me to go across, like it was where the river picks up again, and something in the river he saw. He was just sort of riding me and then off to the river.
Wow.
Doing his fishing.
Unbelievable. That's
for
fantastic.
Her fishing. I know. It's so
fantastic.
Beautiful. I know. It's a sign.
Yeah.
It's a good sign.
It is a good sign.
Yeah.
So let's get started, shall we?
Let's get started. I feel like a lot happened. Listen, we're saying like not much happened with us except for those moments of glory and majesty, but so much. There's so many things to pick and choose from.
Yeah, it's hard.
So it was hard for us. So sorry, guys, if we're going to miss something. But we wanted to talk right off the bat about this sort of surprise. Somebody said it's not a true October surprise because it's not something that was being intentionally withheld to intentionally release in October. But I don't know that that's the only definition for October surprise. I think it's just that, oh my God, be prepared, because we end up at this phase in a presidential election. Something does rock the boat. Something comes up. It could be a hurricane. Remember with Obama, and it turned it around with the Mitt Romney thing for his second term, because we had that horrible, horrible hurricane, and he did his thing with it. So, but this was, Donald's delaying, pushing stuff up to the Supreme Court for the January 6th indictment, where he fomented an insurrection, and he is an insurrectionist, and he's a criminal, and he's all of the things that are the technical terms that go down. But I have my own idea of what January 6th was, especially after looking at this. What was it called that got released?
It was a government motion for the immunity determination. But it was a
Right.
filing. It was a court
It's a filing.
It's a
And
filing.
the only reason it's happening now is because of Donald couldn't face the music, a year ago, and decided to push things up to his thugs on the Supreme Court, and they try to take care of things for him. And so they put this thing on the table to where, of course, Jack Smith is going to file this. So in this filing, what did we learn about what the government has in their case against Donald J. Trump for senior? We always have to call him senior now. The senior one.
Donald
for
Trump Sr.
his role in the insurrection. And it turns out there weren't a lot of surprises in this. I would say, with the exception that, our great friend Sandy Bacon was the one, and she worked with the impeachment crew that were trying to impeach him for this, and helping them with her footage. But she had really worked up this very tight timeline that she kept updating as more news would come out about what was happening in the White House while events with the rioters, right, with the insurrectionists, with the violent mob, were progressing through the Capitol. And so she had that all worked out. I think New York Times did some stuff. And lo and behold, of course, for the prosecutor, this becomes the key to the case of, this is what was being said in the White House, in the Oval Office, around Donald while he's sitting there. This is what he was watching on TV. This is what he was Twittering. They've got his Twitter stuff. This is what he was in there doing, not just the stuff we saw. If they've got their hands on that, they probably have his messages with people. We'll see. And this is what was transpiring, this sort of the cause and effect, and re-cause and re-effect. Like, as we got down after, I don't know if it was before, after he threw that stuff out there about Mike Pence is refusing to do the blah, blah, what I want him to do. He's a bad lieutenant, basically. And they're coming in and telling him, his advisors, whoever, they're having to evacuate Mike Pence right now. Secret Service has got to get him out of there because the mob is coming for him. And Donald's response was, so what? So I didn't know this, so what? And as soon as I read that, so what, I'm like, Sammy Gravano.
Sammy Gravano. There's so much Sammy Gravano Trump overlap, isn't there? Yeah.
This is it. This is a mob boss, or a wannabe mob boss, who's gone to the mattresses in the middle of a mob war, getting an update on how it's going. And the guy that he put out, that one of the people that he knew he had to take down in order to seize the power of all the territory, right? Whatever, that's what the mafia wars are all about. It's about territory. Territory can be, a nationwide or a global drug trade. It doesn't have to be a plot of land, right? It doesn't have to be a borough. It's really about the financial territory, the sectors, right?
Yeah.
That one group wants to control over another. If it's a concrete cartel, then it's going to be specific land. But if it's heroin, it's, everything, it's shipping and everything. So that's so what? The so what to me was like, oh, this is like, going to the mattresses, and you're getting a report back, which is a mafia term. And it did start with The Godfather. It actually preceded that, of a term, and they picked it up in The Godfather, a term that's used when you're going to have a mafia war between two families over whatever the territory might be. And you go and put mattresses on the floors somewhere where they don't know you are, so you can plot and plan and then execute your mob war without it going into your own home. Right? So that's what going to the mattresses means, because you're literally putting mattresses on the floor and somebody's cooking all day for everybody, and the rest of the guys are out there, mowing people down, or putting things in place to execute a plan so that nobody knows about it, so leaks don't get out. So what? It just struck me. It was like, oh, this was like, John Gotti and Sammy Gravano planning the hit on Paul Castellano, right? And they're hearing that the other guy got killed. The driver got killed. Oh, well, so what? That's what we were doing. So that's what that was. And then it occurred to me that except he definitely learned this from the mafiosos that his father fronted money for, right? That his father was there for to launder, and that he worked with once his dad passed that $400 million some dollars of Genovese money, quite frankly, on to Donald in the Trump thing to oversee. He definitely learned from those men, except for January 6th, the territory is the United States. It's not just the capital. The territory is democracy itself. It's our nation. And the rival family is all of us, is the people, is the people of the nation. That's who we put a hit out on. It wasn't just Mike Pence. Mike Pence was the guy, one of the people standing in the way of the plan and the plot succeeding, just like the Capitol Police were. He didn't care about any of those people's lives. We gotta plow through them to grab and seize the territory, which just wasn't the office of the presidency. It was the fucking nation.
Yeah.
So, I'm not going to, you hear all these right wingers and the Fox News saying, you just need to let it go and move on. That's what JD Vance was saying in the debate when he was asked by Tim Walz at the very end, do you think? And he's like, I'm moving forward. That's because they want to get past January 6th. It's such a threat. And I'm like sitting there thinking, and I saw someone say something similar to this. I'm like, you're still in your Confederate flag underoos. You're like still wearing, that crap, and you're still standing in front of those flags. And, for a war that was lost by your great, great, great granddaddy, maybe, and we got to get over something that happened to us. That's, people were murdered. Ashley Babbitt lost her life. Capitol Police officers are dead. That's, there's no statute of limitations on that, on culpability. The person who perpetrated that is still alive and trying to be president again. So no, we don't, this isn't the thing we move past. This is the thing we actually have yet to complete. And we need this trial. I just want him, I don't want him to stroke out before this. We got to have Kamala win. And then this case go forward. Everybody needs to see all of the evidence and to watch this trial. And then he can stroke out. Yeah. Then Mother Nature can do what she needs to do to that senior man. But those are my thoughts on all of that. Surprise.
Yeah. October surprise. I don't know. My thoughts, and again, we haven't learned much that's new. It just reinforces what we already know. We saw what we've been reading about for almost 4 fucking years now.
Yeah.
And the gaslighting here from Trump, from MAGA, from the media, frankly, from the Republicans who were there, which is such a disgrace and such a traitorous, treasonous stance to take.
Yeah.
This guy tried to overthrow the government, and people are like, well, he's not going to really try to overthrow the government when he gets elected again, if he gets elected. And I'm like, yeah, he is. And the reason we know why he is because he tried to do it already once.
And he's only running again to avoid prison for doing it before.
It's not a hypothetical. Like, this is something that he's going to do. We know this is what, this business of people saying, and this is transitioning now into the second topic, but the people saying, well, no, that's never going to happen. They're never going to do that. That's what they said in the 1930s in Germany. But the difference is, in the 1930s in Germany, they didn't have the example of the 1930s in Germany, which we have. They could plausibly say, I really didn't think that was what would happen. We can't say that because we have a very recent example in history of when that did not happen. So anyway, moving on to the second topic. Moving on. Hit the timer.
I did already.
You did. All right, whatever. We're talking about housing. They talked about housing a lot in the debate. And it's interesting. This is the thing that I wanted to show, because somebody at Southpaw NYC put this on the Blue Sky, and I thought this is a really good take. So CBS News has a little graphic here where they're comparing the housing proposals, and the one on the left says mass deportation to, to ease demand. And then the one on the right, tax incentives for builders. And Southpaw says, this is one that I think will be printed in history books one day to show how insane American media culture became. CBS News presenting ethnic cleansing as a housing policy to be compared with home construction tax incentives. And, that to me, that really, that's what this is about. Everything is, it's crazy. Now I'm reading a book now that I bought at the book fair called The Rape of Europa. And it's about the Nazis, okay, in the lead into the war and during the war and what happened to all the artwork. And it focuses on that. And it's very, very interesting because Hitler just, like all these guys, he's a fucking thief, right? He just wants to plunder shit like Trump does. And I'm reading the part now, I'm early on in the book where they're going into Poland and they're just basically taking shit and throwing people out and then taking their castles, so this mass deportation policy is basically going to be that, They're going to throw people out of their homes and then confiscate the homes and, move people in. That's the policy. Okay. I'm framing it slightly differently, but that's what, they are Nazis. Okay. Now that's the second thing. Now there's a couple more housing things that are of interest here. Gil Duran, who has that Nerd Reich, Substack, wrote this about the tech bros have been on this thing about what he calls the network state, where they want to build these cities where the government's not there. It's like right-wing, anti-democratic tech people that can do everything better, and they're going to run these cities as like little principalities, And this is an idea that Trump has now advanced after the debate. He calls them freedom cities. It sounds like it's a Hunger Games-y, Running Man-y kind of. It's so hard to describe, where they want to just create these cities in places just on federal land, which I'm like, federal land? Are they we're just going to push Native Americans further off the reservation? Is that what we're going to do now? We're going to
go back to that? Well, he's been trying to do that for
we're going to go back to
the
that.
90s. Yeah.
So the tech bros, this is a tech bro idea about housing. That's what they want to do. And then the Theo bros. Theo is theocracy, and this is Kira Butler from Mother Jones wrote this piece a couple weeks ago and has this TikTok going around explaining who these people are. They're all these millennial white, proud Christian nationalists. And they too want to set up these principalities where we can have religious rules and blah, blah, blah. And so what's interesting to me is that JD Vance is at the nexus of all this stuff. Okay. He's MAGA. Yeah. He's a tech bro. He's a Theo bro. He's in with the Opus Dei, Leonard Leo crew. If you listen to my podcast from this morning, he's all of that. And, and he is going to be president if Trump is elected, or dictator or king or whatever. Trump is not going to last long. But they're going to get him in, and he's going to go. And this motherfucker is going to be our dictator for the next 40 years or whatever, however long he lives. That's what's going to happen. That's what happened in all these places. And I'm telling you, and you're right. He is all things but nothing. In the center of him is hollowness and emptiness. And that's it. That's what I'm saying about housing. And it's cloaked in housing. Oh, these two parties have all these great ideas about how to do that, and the media doesn't get this. They just don't get it.
Do you think you really think they don't get it? You think CBS News can't grasp this?
I don't know. I mean, I think it's the boiling frog thing. I mean, it really has been so normalized that it's, I don't think they realize how far we've come. It's like when you're you have like a little niece and then you leave for a year and you come back and suddenly she's taller.
I don't buy it. I don't buy it's a glow up. It's not. I don't buy it, because for the last 8 years, there's been alarms being raised by everyone they trot onto their news programs, and articles being written constantly saying you cannot normalize this. This is how it happens.
Yeah, but those articles are by PhDs, LB. We don't care about PhDs. We care about common sense.
There aren't enough Olivia Nutzis to sort of say, this is just some Nepo baby journalism student that can live in a glamorous, Palace Verdes or whatever estate during a pandemic without anything, with toilet paper coming out of her ears on a journalist, baby journalist salary, maybe has the naivete to both fall for RFK and run interference for him and push propaganda and compromise all integrity because she didn't have to learn anything at journalism school because she's got a golden fucking ticket. They can't all be that.
I don't know. I'm not going to.
They can't all be that to where you end up with that. Whoever did that, whatever people were behind that as CBS News. Is it CBS? Not ABC, right?
CBS.
CBS.
Yeah. And which
knows
I think
exactly what they're doing.
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't buy it.
I don't buy it either.
I don't buy that it's, there's cooking fraud. We've also been saying that for 6 years.
Well,
there've been plenty of people saying this is how you don't do that. Stop doing that. You can do it this way. And they're still like, no.
It's awful. But the MAGA playbook is very obvious, LB. You know how obvious it is?
How obvious?
You could maybe even write a very short song about it.
Oh.
Hey, let me explain the MAGA playbook. Lie on X and lie on Facebook in all caps. Vow to bring back law and order. Scream and yell about the border and sell crap. Call her a communist. Make a big deal after the gunman missed. And praise Kim Jong-un. Rally at the tarmac near Trump Force One. And lie and lie and lie. Don't stop. Deny, deny, deny. Don't stop. Stoke the hatred and the meanness till they sizzle like fajitas. Target people who are trans. Let them liken you to Jesus. Promise to protect the fetus. Say you aren't as weird as Vance. Oh, Kamala will defeat us. Never, never say she beat us. Never, never say she beat us. Never, never say she beat us.
Oh,
Boom.
You know what the best part about that was?
What?
Is that was Senior. That was Donald Senior. That's Donald Senior. That wasn't an animation. That's his actual picture. That's how bad he looks. In fact, that might have been for a couple years ago because he looks like a little bit more haggard. He's more senior.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
it's true.
He's even more senior.
Chunk with the excellent animation, as always, killing it. Okay. It's time for our guest.
Yay!
He is the editor of Eater Philly. He's a political writer at large for Philadelphia Magazine. He's the author of a book called The Case for Cancel Culture and the host of Ernestly Speaking, Mr. Ernest Owens. Welcome back.
Ernest Owens!
Hello, how are you all? Good evening.
Thanks for coming back on. We appreciate it. Do you have any thoughts on anything that we've been talking about here? The media, any of it?
I do agree with LB about the playbook. There is definitely a benefit of really creating this a horse race, and it's kind of rigged, the double standards, right? Because there's this weird juggle, which I think benefits, a lot of the cable news channels. I do think there are actual journalists out there, including myself, that are trying to make sense of everything, but really spend time focused on, the issues and what voters want, because I think we get caught up. I think mainstream media gets caught up in trying to, it's a hypocrisy. Like, in one sense, they want to kind of equivocate these candidates, which is impossible. Like, there's no way that you can equivocate Donald Trump, who is now a convicted felon, to, Vice President Harris, who doesn't have a criminal record at all. But at the same time, entertain and kind of normalize Trump's lying, but then nitpick at any little error that is either being said by Walsh or Harris on a particular issue. And then they play into this game of both sidisms because they will try to really like pretend to be tough and aggressive and try to do a gotcha with Harris just to try to look like they're fair, because of the fact that they're criticizing Trump, which is also just intellectually dishonest, because the sad part about it is that you're dealing with two polarizing opposites, and if it's just not there, it's just not there. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost like they're trying to make this even, and
manufacturing something instead of just dealing with the facts.
And I don't even want to say manufacturing to some extent. Maybe what I will say, there's an over-indexing. So there could be an actual problem, right? Like Kamala is not perfect. Kamala Harris is not perfect.
Right.
But what I've noticed is that they will over-index and overemphasize something to the same level to which they are emphasizing something related to Trump. I mean, even with Biden, they did the same thing. So Hunter Biden's indictment led to massive media play, almost to the sense of like in conversations of Trump's indictments at the time, they will say, well, what about Hunter Biden? It's like, why are we trying to act like these two individuals are running for president? That these two individuals were at some point elected officials. Like Hunter Biden is not running for president. He is a sibling. He is the child of a president, a U.S. president. Like, that's not the same. And so it kind of makes me think about the times in which, there was a not even important drama with George W. Bush's daughters. I think one of them was at a bar or something underage. That never, in this day and age, it's almost as if they would try to treat that as if it's a bigger scandal in the time in which trying to equivocate to whatever Trump is doing, just to try to even it out. Even some of the things that was said about Kamala's husband, right? The second gentleman, Doug. Yeah. Some of his past, marital issues, they've tried to emphasize on the same way of the scandals that Trump is having with his current marriage and his past marriages. Like, these are not the same.
How about the adjudicated rape? I never hear about the adjudicated rape.
Right. But again, these are the things that I do feel like the media is trying to do to gravitate interest. And to be honest, Trump is boring. Like, this is boring. Like, the level of interest that people have had for Trump has faded. It has been 8 years of the same broken record, 8 years of the same antics. In 2016 was the prime time of him. That was the level to which people were shocked and what he was going to do next. The presidency was a circus. The pandemic proves to everybody how dangerous it was to entertain the nonsense. And ever since then, it's just been a fall. At this point, people are not, the argument of him being charismatic or interesting or anything of that nature has fallen. At this point, you're just either trying to uphold a sense of white supremacy because you just hate the diversity of this country, you hate women's rights, or you actually don't. There's really no sophisticated reason to support Trump at this point, because the calls to which he's trying to make is hypocritical. You can't say you want to support a law and order candidate in Trump when the man is literally breaking the law and not trying to hold himself accountable. How many officers died under Trump's mismanagement? Yeah. And how many did under Vice President Harris for her direct actions? And you can count them many under Trump. So like, this is night and day to me. This is night and day. People who are trying to say they're undecided, they're lying. They're not undecided. They're deciding whether or not they want to vote. I think the real undecided are people who are undecided on whether or not they want to vote at all. I would find a more compelling case, if there was one, of why people might be just checked out the entire election rather than being hard between Trump or Harris. I don't see that. They're either deciding to vote or not, but if they're deciding to vote, they know who they're voting for.
Yeah, I mean,
I think so. I think there is a portion of people, I just don't know how big it is, that have had Fox News on, if any news. They only have that one side. And I like, we'll get into this in our next topic, but because the surrogates are proving helpful with that. So I think there was some of that being undecided, because it's sort of like, how can I vote for this guy? So that comes off as undecided. But I kind of have to, because aren't we doing it? Is it really that bad? Because they're telling me it's not that bad. And they're telling me these are the bad people. I do think there's people in that lane that
There are. I know people in that lane.
Yeah.
But some of it requires a real conversation, like with people. Like, we can blame the news. That's easy. That's scapegoat. But when you really have the conversations, because I've had them with people in certain circles, and they're honest. They're not comfortable conversations. They're worried about a woman being president. The same way we go. They're uncomfortable with that. They're uncomfortable with a Black woman being the next president of the United States.
Look at the firemen's union.
Right. There's a lot of real reasons. And they'll pretend and they'll say the economy and they'll say that.
Yeah.
But the reality is that I could see that in the days of Mitt Romney and Obama, right? Where you could placate to say that these two guys, I don't know, right? And John McCain and Obama, right? But with Sarah Palin's antics, it made it easier for people to scapegoat a woman that they felt like was incompetent to then pivot to Obama, because they had to choose an incompetent woman or a Black man that they're not sure about with a weird last name. And in many ways, they played into their biases that in many ways made them vote with reason. But it's always these very basic surface levels that make people have to wrestle. You know, I think about Biden and Trump, in 2020. It was so easy for people to just go for Biden. Very easy, very quickly. There was no people that were undecided. I think it's interesting that now we're hearing the undecided, and Trump has gotten even worse. He hasn't gotten better.
Yeah.
And the person that he's going against now is much smarter, sharper, and even more energized than him. So I just find it that the goalpost moves when gender and race enters these conversations.
I completely agree with you. I think
And I
this is
think-
much better than I was trying to.
Yeah.
It's not I'm undecided. It's, can I actually vote for a Black woman? Can I do that?
Right.
Can I actually vote for a woman? And can I actually vote for a woman of color? Like, can I?
You
I
got
don't know. I'm undecided about that. I don't know if
Well,
I can do that.
Well, you have to decide whether or not you want to cut your nose to spite your face, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there is a sense of the denial, though, for the people of the Fox. I'm talking about somebody very specific here, who is a member of my family who has a child who is gay and married, and is told, if Trump gets in, that's done, that's going away.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Somebody else I know. Hey, they might try to
Wade
deport your mother. Nah, they're never going to do that.
Roe v. Wade happened.
Right.
Affirmative action happened.
It doesn't matter, but they're
Yeah.
obdurate.
That's what they have to tell themselves, right?
Yeah.
Because they want to hold on to something.
Mm.
And so
Yeah,
this
good
is
point.
the uncomfortable conversations that people are not having, that I've had. I've had them at my barbershop. I've had it with, for starters, I just want to say, I don't think there is this crazy obsessive Black male not voting for Kamala narrative. I think that there are people that, that I have spoken to, some that are biased, that just are like, they don't know if a woman would be right for president. And that's just the same conversations about Hillary to a certain extent. And that's the real conversations. It has nothing to really do about qualifications. They're not acting like Trump is just this smart person. But I wonder with those particular voters, is the conversation whether or not they're going to vote at all. Because some of them are not interested in voting for Trump. They're just not necessarily convinced to vote at all.
Right. I wonder if sarcasm works in those conversations. If you try that, get back to me with like, you're right. If only she was tweeting all caps, I hate Taylor Swift. Then
Well,
then we could say, oh, this is a mature, not teenage girl.
But right. But this is the weird thing about voters, though, and about these particular voters, is that they know the facts. They know. They don't. It's really, and you will, any person who's been in some marginalized space will know the script, whatever your identity is, whatever your circumstance, you'll know the script that you're told. That is what is called the BS script. right? The thing of like, you were very good, you were very qualified, you said these things very well. However, there was concerns about this, and you're like, whatever that is, right? Maybe the idea of, well, you got a very young age as a woman, you seem like you have your life ahead, you just got married, this might be a lot to take on, which is the excuse not to hire a woman because you're scared she's going to be pregnant, right? The language, or they'll say to you I've heard in certain conversations, oh, you got really great points and things. I just don't know if you're going to be able to consider various perspectives. You're basically saying it because I'm Black, you don't think that I can be able to resonate with white people. Right. So these are the things that we hear. We as that person on the marginalized side, we know what that sounds like. We know what is really being told to us, even if it's not. So when I'm in certain spaces, right, with older white men, and I hear them talking about the election, they'll say, I'm undecided. I'm looking at both candidates, and I definitely understand the problems with Trump, very much so. I just don't know if Harris is ready. That's not to mean that I'm not going to vote for Trump or anything like that. I'm not saying vote for Trump, but I just wonder how ready she is. And it's like, why are you asking that? Do you think Trump's ready to be president? Like, why is that why is there this expectation of readiness from Harris?
Right. Why are you reaching for that?
Both of them have been the White House
note for underneath the note. It's what we call it in my profession. Is like, you're going to get these notes on your work, and they're never right. It's not that they're bad notes. It's that the person saying them either can't grasp what they really need to say. They just know it's something, or they're not in touch with it, or they don't want you to, in this case, there's denial going on, and they don't want you to see it. They don't want to say the real thing. So you just have to listen for and find the note beneath the note.
Yeah, we have a lot of silent majority voters, is what I will say. That silent, I always say silent majority, right? The people you don't know. When I think about how Trump has, even though Biden, fairly outright beat Trump, what we have to remember is that in 2020, Trump got more votes in 2020 than he got in 2016.
Yeah.
But Biden did so damn well that he did way well. He is the most popular president in terms of in terms of the popular vote in American history. Like, more Americans voted for Biden than any other president in American history.
Yep.
But also, Trump did also extremely well too. And so what that tells,
so many people turned out.
Yeah, it
turned out for the
he's number 2 on that list. If you go by sheer number of votes, he's number 2.
I think. Which is why he felt inclined to run again. And so I think about that, and I say to myself that what that tells me is that Americans in this society, in this current society, has gotten better with lying because they know the optics, right? The optics skew liberal in society. So people will shake their head, say all the things you want to hear, but when they go in that booth, they're voting very differently. When they're in a room to make decisions on who gets hired and who gets promoted, their biases come out in a different way. And it's a little scary because I remember there was a time where people was a little bit more upfront. It was easy to see how people really felt. And I think now, in the name of progressiveness, we've gotten better with advancing some causes. But what has been said is that now people have gotten better with hiding and masking their biases in ways that is actually harmful, because elections will assume one thing. Like, society will have you thinking that, okay, Obama 8 years, we're going to Hillary. And then the country went in a completely different direction. And you're like, how did that happen? Because everyone was smiling, everyone was saying the right things, everyone was knowing the optics, but people have just gotten better masking their own personal reservations and biases. And I think that is why the election still is a nail biter, because I don't trust people, voters. But like, as a journalist, I've gone places and I've had the on the record conversation and I've had the off the record conversation.
Yeah.
And the views are very different.
Yeah.
Even amongst Democrats about how they feel about their policies. They're not even being honest about the policies that they're supporting out loud. Behind the scenes, they even carry views that are a lot more moderate than what it appears to be.
That's interesting. I think there's a thing about like the hypothetical and the real to some degree. Like, I remember when Hillary ran, people would say, well, I want there should be a woman president. I'm totally going to vote for a woman who's going to be president. I can't vote for Hillary though.
Right.
That'd be somebody else. And now it's the same thing. We definitely need a woman president. We need to, it's something JD Vance would say at the debate. Like, we have to do better. We have to do a better job with that. We have to have a woman president, but not Kamala Harris.
Right.
Yeah.
So once it comes down to the real,
you don't want an established white woman. You don't want a fresh, West Coast black woman. Like they don't know what they want because they don't want it. And so in many ways, it's going to take voters. It's going to take voters, right, to come out. Like they said, is the country ready for a black president? I think we were 2 terms, actually. We were ready. And we made a lot of progress under that over the Obama administration. It's just going to take voters, people, younger voters who want change, women, across all spectrums.
Yeah.
It's going to have to get up and say, okay, it is time. We're tired of this. We're going to push the country forward. And there'll be people that will have to go back and go, that wasn't so bad. I guess we can do it again. Because in many ways, people can even see Kamala as president because we've had Obama. Yeah. Because if we didn't have Obama, the Kamala conversation would need to be happening right now.
No, that's true.
Even Hillary to a certain extent.
Yeah, that's Hillary running, I think.
Kamala, we had to have Obama and Hillary to get us to a point where we can actually, I'm fine with it clearly, but the rest of the country can even fully grasp the viability of Harris. And that's just how it moves. So sometimes people have to make political sacrifices, right? Or take losses to move, right? Shirley Chisholm had to do it, decades ago so that we can even see a possibility model. And that's just how we move the country forward. But now I think it's time to bank in. I think Trump is just so off his rocket. And it just baffles me that we're at this point where this man is literally being entertained. Like he is the thing that we were taught not to be for president. Like everyone said, this is unelectable. Like these are traits of a person that has no chance. And Democrats are still holding other candidates to that playbook when the guy on the other end has completely thrown that playbook in the garbage.
Oh no, he's at 11. You know, it's not just he's got these traits. He's at 11. He's been convicted. He's been adjudicated for those traits. I mean, he is. I like you.
He tried to overthrow the government. He killed 600,000 people from his negligence. Yeah. So that's how many people died in the Civil War. But, on the other hand, I mean, I don't know. Can't have the woman, though.
It's a tough race. They want to keep it that way. It's such a tough race. It's such a hard decision.
So close. It's such a nail biter. I hope it's a blowout, and then we can just get rid of all of these people.
I keep seeing in my sleep 310. I don't know. I keep seeing number 310.
Okay.
I just want it to be over at like 9:02 p.m. Eastern time. That's
You were the VP whisperer last time you were on our show. It was before she picked her VP. You were on the show right after Biden was out, and it was who's she going to pick? And you knew it was not going to be Josh Shapiro when everybody was saying Josh Shapiro.
I knew it.
So you knew it. So we were like, we got to get him back. So I really want to get your opinion on Walz and how Walz is doing and how he did in that debate with and also JD Vance, who now we all, not that we didn't, but what did you think of the VP debate, being the VP whisperer that you are?
Yes. So, first off, I didn't watch it immediately. I think most of the country, the ratings for the VP debate was less than usual. I didn't watch it exactly live. I wasn't running to my TV. I went with my younger brother. I'm in Philadelphia. There was a show in the Broadway tour, Book of Mormon. So I finally got to see that musical.
Oh, how great.
It was quite interesting, but it was quite more interesting than the debate. I did watch the debate when I got home. I had DVR'd it and I watched it. I had saw some early tweets and people just, doing the doomsday stuff, and I think there's several things about it that needs to be clear. Let's get this out the way quick. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Like, let's just start there. Like, no one cares about like, I made a joke on Twitter, and I was like, I said on Facebook, I was like, the VP debate is really going to determine how I vote on November 5th. Said no one ever. and that's literally the case. Like, no one watched that debate and was like, that's going to change my mind on November 5th. Early.
Right. Did you learn anything about either one of them?
No.
No.
I didn't. I felt like it's one of those performative things you got to do, right? They had to do it. You got to do it. Look, Walz was Walz. He was fine. Beginning, it's not what he do. We know who he is. He's the real McCoy about who he really is.
Yeah.
What I will give both Harris and Walz credit for, the two of them, is that they've been able to really adapt very quickly to a very chaotic political cycle. I think we're all sick of this campaign. Like, not this campaign, not their campaign, but this campaign season. This has been a long, drawn-out election season. I'm tired of it. Everyone's over it. Like, get it over with. Give me the decision. Just tell me what it is today. If we could vote like tomorrow, October 5th, right? I would rather do that and get it over with, because I think between now and November 5th, we all know they're just throwing money on the situation. They're just dragging this out. And the truth of the matter is that I got to give Harris and Walz credit, because their lives completely changed like 2 months ago. Like, their lives unpinned. Like Harris was not thinking president of the United States right now, right? Walz was not thinking that, oh my goodness, I'm going to now leave the Midwest and become the vice president of the United States. Like, they did not see their lives like this. And so for them to be thrust into this spotlight, into this crazy chaotic election cycle in this type of way, I got to give them kudos for just adapting to this, adjusting as fast as they can, and looking confident and normal and competent in so much uncertainty and chaos. So, like, kudos to them for just even being able to just like regulate themselves in this. Because when I was watching Walz, I'm like, this man has never been on a big stage like this. He's never had this much attention in his life. And the fact that he's been able to just go with the flow and just push through, I was just happy to see that.
And it's not even go with the flow and push through. They launched like superstars. So I love this frame that you just introduced, because it's like, oh my God, how are they going to react at 3 a.m. when the call comes in and something? Well, maybe as well as they did when the call came in at 3, like, and now you're president, you're running for president. And they're like, okay. And they came out beyond like being pros. She came out beyond that.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just and no one, and not even Fox News could deny that. This is gold star, platinum level campaign launch.
She was the person at the DNC when everyone was like, she's going to bring in a star. She's going to bring in somebody famous. It's really going to light it up. That person was her. She didn't need someone else. Yeah,
no, exactly. I was so annoyed when I was watching DNC and people were just like anticipating Beyonce in this. I was like, why? I just felt like it was also just very like, we didn't ask for Beyonce when Hillary went up. We've never asked for that for anyone. When Obama got on the stage,
Beyonce concert.
I think what I think it was is that people are so exhausted and fatigued by the consistent play of the candidates. We've seen commercials, we've seen a lot. And I think everyone wants a little bit of pizzazz, but the reality is that there is a formality to this presidential election that needs to happen, and they respected that with the DNC. But to your point about Walz and Harris, I just felt like the two of them, to your point, definitely is answering that 3 a.m. call, definitely is taking things in stride and pushing forward and giving more confidence and stamina to an election cycle that has been draining. They have the joy on their side, and they've been pushing through. Yeah. I think JD Vance did what JD Vance did best. And I think the problem with some of the people with their slight disappointment in debate is that they didn't recognize that, like, Vance is not Trump. And so while it was easy to see Harris just whack Trump left and right in the debate, which we all was anticipating was going to happen, and pretty much did, Vance is not that. Vance is not even 40 yet, I believe. Or maybe have just hit 40. He's very millennial. This guy is someone who is more poised. He's a good salesman. He's the person that is a snake oil salesman. He lies, but he lies very fluently. He lies with confidence. He lies with bravado. He lies with a little bit of swagger and a little bit of confidence in a way that he can sell his lies better than
Trump. Ivy Leaguer.
Yeah, Trump is Ivy Leaguer too. Trump is an Ivy Leaguer too, unfortunately. It's
Oh,
embarrassing. He went to my alma mater. We both went to the University of Pennsylvania. It's very embarrassing.
I'm
But
sorry.
that's what but that's what it looks like to be, that is the diversity hire, the rich kids, the kids with money. That is the not nepotism, legacy, not even legacy, just money, the money clause. He had to check off. They say, oh, people like me a diversity pick. Interesting. I had no connection, no money, no family to this. I was just the class president valedictorian of my college of my year and got into Penn on tuition, paid tuition, yes, free, because I was smart, because of the fact that I also did a lot of work. I did student government, dairy cow judging. I was the FFA president of my chapter. I
You
did
make sure you had all your boxes checked.
I had to be a damn Renaissance man. But it's funny that they'll look at someone like me and question my merits, but I don't know how this guy got in.
I think his dad bought it.
Right.
For
Money. Right.
It was also, I think it was easier to get in back then. When you applied, it was much, much harder. Seriously.
That is true.
It was. No, it is true.
Penn was in a very different ranking.
He's a senior.
That's right.
An old man.
That's right.
I'm hitting on that. We got to call him Don Senior. Is the note,
Donald
and
Senior.
It's a proper note.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My take on what do you think about this? Because I think that people were probably a little bit surprised to see Vance being coherent and kind of doing the old school debate thing where you're nice to the other person and kind of civil. And you're like, wait, maybe he doesn't fuck couches. Maybe he's not a couch fucker after all. But I think relative to everybody, it makes Trump look bad. Because out of all the debates that we've watched in the last 8 years, the only person who is completely off the rails and stupid and moronic is him. Everybody else is at least reasonably
I do think he takes the shine off Trump. And I think Donald is going to react to that. I think we have yet to see a little bit of fallout there. The other thing about Vance, I just want to say this, is the reason there was an expectation is he does those hits on the YouTube shows for like Steve Bannon or whatever, like and it's so fascistic, right? And then when he's out in public, he's doing his awkwardness at the donut shop. So those were the only two things we had in front of us to absorb of this guy. And he clearly had another mode. He had, slick, whatever mode that I'm going to show up and just lie and
that was I'm taking a class at Yale mode. That's what that was. I'm taking debate class and I want an A. That's what that was.
Do all that.
I mean, honestly, you're describing a sociopath.
Yes, I am.
Very much so.
I mean, that's just really what it is, a sociopathic behavior. I think the truth here is that, he's looking, I think what I saw from him, even though I don't think he has a chance, but two things happening here. One is that for a while I've been calling that to your point, LB, that I've been calling that Trump that there will be a clashing of them. I don't know when it's going to happen, but it is getting to a point, because even some people I saw were saying, JD should be running for president. I mean, why is Trump even here? They should have considered him or something. And then I've heard people talking about it. If there was a Vance Haley ticket, this race would be really competitive. But there is starting to be some comparisons, and it does look like Vance is trying to keep it. I also sense from Vance that he's beginning to think exit strategy mentally. He's not saying it, but I think there's a part of him that recognizes that this is going to go down. And I think he's trying to figure out his political future, and he's trying to soften some things, and he's still going to do his antics. But there's a part of me that feels like he's trying to settle this,
kind of sidestep,
and make himself look right, because that national stage, that debate stage, is going to be the first time a lot of people finally got to meet him. Like really meet him. Like the DNC was whatever, but that's one of the few times that people get to really see the man that they've heard crazy stories about. And so I think in a way he's trying to now, because now we're really a month away from the election. I think he's trying to put a fine bowing on a lot of this.
I think you're right.
He loses,
like a safety bubble around himself, so when it loses, he can just sort of, galaxy quest his way, into whatever the next timeline is.
He's the owner of the Titanic slithering into the lifeboat when the ship sinks.
Yeah.
Or he's Billy Zane. He's
Yeah.
actually very much Billy Zane.
I think he is Billy Zane. I think that is his, I think that's his energy. I think he's really trying to figure out. He started to put an exit strategy on this.
Yeah.
And I think even him just being courteous. But here's the thing. All that went down for me. The reason why I just was over Vance, and the reason why there was nothing really much of a revelation for me is that he would not admit that Trump lost
Yeah.
between election. And the whole talking about I'm not trying to go back to the past, but then he goes himself to the past of making a false allegation of censorship with Harris. It was just like, you say you don't want to go back to the past, but then you want to false equivocate this bogus claim of Harris censoring people around the same time.
Yeah. That was
And I'm
his
like,
whispering to his, that's him whispering to MAGA, because that they had been floating all of that before, of like, they're trying to drag up January 6th, which was a nothing. They're going back. We're not going to do, to me, there was coded stuff going on there, than their language that they speak with their people. But yeah, and then we're going to just blame the woman for being whatever. She's horrible, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, to me, he lost all his points.
Communism, commie Kamala, he was doing that.
Yeah.
They heard that. But I think Walls handled that.
We're gonna move forward, except for Tiananmen Square when you were there in August and not July. That's it. The election's over.
Yeah.
Who gives a shit about that? That's to your point, Ernest, about the false equivalency.
Right.
That is the least important thing I could possibly imagine.
I'm just trying to figure out who cares. Like, is that a deciding point? Raise your hand if that's going to determine. Like, we're comparing like the Eiffel Tower to a mom and pop shop. Like, when we're looking at the situation, we're talking about an insurrection that people died. Yeah. It was a breach of democracy. And we're talking about a man who misplaced the date to which he was in a foreign country years ago, to which no one's going to remember where. Most people don't know how to spell Tiananmen Square. Like, come on. Like, this is this. And the thing is, because Trump lies so much, it's almost like there's like a triple, quadruple standard that Harris can't do anything or can't do any fumble.
Right. But then, because then she somehow, all of the lies, we can't call lies anymore because you were, it's just,
right. She actually worked at the McDonald's in Tiananmen Square. I don't know if you knew that. That was
stop it.
No, Trump spent a week talking about how she didn't really work at McDonald's. The McDonald's corporate headquarters it's like they're franchises, dude. They're all fucking franchises. If the McDonald's where I work, the franchise doesn't exist anymore. So
well, if only he had a background in business, maybe he would know that. Okay, Ernest, will you stick with us for our next topic?
Yeah, totally.
Okay, because I know you also have a story to share with us, and I want to share that when we get to our announcements. Yeah. All right.
So the next topic is
we're gonna put a timer on it.
We're gonna put the timer on. Okay, first we're gonna watch a little something here.
Yeah. Speaking of the real McCoy.
Let's see how this works here. I'm gonna put this on
just
in case anybody missed it.
Bruce Springsteen. Friends, fans, and the press have asked me who I'm supporting in this most important of elections. And with full knowledge of my opinions, no more or less important than those of any of my fellow citizens, here's my answer. I'm supporting Kamala Harris for president and Tim Walz for vice president, and opposing Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. Here's why. We are shortly coming upon one of the most consequential elections in our nation's history. Perhaps not since the Civil War has this great country felt as politically, spiritually, and emotionally divided as it does then at this moment. It doesn't have to be this way. The common values, the shared stories that make us a great and united nation are waiting to be rediscovered and retold once again. Now that will take time, hard work, intelligence, faith, and women and men with the national good guiding their hearts. America is the most powerful nation on earth, not just because of her overwhelming military strength or economic power, but because of what she stands for, what she means, what she believes in. Freedom, social justice, equal opportunity, the right to be and love who you want. These are the things that make America great. Donald Trump is the most dangerous candidate for president in my lifetime. His disdain for the sanctity of our Constitution, the sanctity of democracy, the sanctity of the rule of law, and the sanctity of the peaceful transfer of power should disqualify him from the office of president ever again. He doesn't understand the meaning of this country, its history, or what it means to be deeply American. On the other hand, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are committed to a vision of this country that respects and includes everyone, regardless of class, religion, race, your political point of view, or sexual identity. And they want to grow our economy in a way that benefits all, not just a few like me on top. That's the vision of America I've been consistently writing about for 55 years. Now, everybody sees things different, and I respect your choice as a fellow citizen. But like you, I've only got one vote, and it's one of the most precious possessions that I have. That's why, come November 5th, I'll be casting my vote for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. Thanks for listening.
Wow.
Okay. I know that's a little long, but I'm from New Jersey and I have to play it because it's the law.
You have to play it, but also he
yeah.
delivered it like a song. You know, like the cadence, the emphasis, the rhythm of it was so easy to listen to. I've heard that now 3 times, and it still strikes me. It's so plainly spoken and so authentic, while he's also recognizing I'm one of the few. I'm wealthy. You know, he is in a plaid shirt. I wear my plaid shirt back in the day, my mountain girl, you know, but I guarantee you his costs more than mine.
He's in a diner. He's in a diner. Man. That's what it's all about. So I wanted to play that because there's been this movement now to have more male surrogates for Kamala Harris out there, you know, promoting her, talking about her. And we were talking about this in the production meeting before the show. And I have this, I don't know, it's kind of a theory. And Ernest, I'm curious what your take on this is. I feel like there has been unmistakably a change, a shift in gender roles, certainly in my lifetime. I'm going to be 52 next month. And, you know, from the 20s or the 30s or something, it's different now than it used to be. And everybody knows it, you know, and it's different for the better, but it's also can be confusing. And I think that these MAGA guys, these like, you know, pro manosphere guys, like, you know, Josh Hawley wrote the book on masculinity, and you got their Andrew Tate and what's his name, Jordan Peterson. And these, I think they're trying to exploit the kind of confusion over or the muddiness over gender roles that now exists. They're trying to exploit it to try to control guys who are insecure about, you know, where they are in the whole, you know, general scheme of things. And, you know, my take is that what it takes to be a man is just don't be an asshole. You know, it really is that simple. Like, support women, don't be a adjudicated rapist or any kind of rapist. You know, support people, help people. And that's really all you got to do. I don't know, but I feel like that Springsteen video is so good because he is kind of the embodiment in a lot of ways, this like blue collar guy. And he's kind of, you know, no bullshit, tough, whatever. But also, you know, he is obviously progressive and all this stuff. So I think it adds a counterweight to the Andrew Tate, Josh Hawley, you know, kind of this ridiculous view of what masculinity means and what you have to do to be a man. Like, you got to have a gun and you got to protect your family with guns and you got to, and all this stuff. And it's just all bullshit. So I don't know. Ernest, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think that there's always going to be, anytime a woman's run for president, we have to have these ridiculous national conversations about gender in ways that are just embarrassing and stupid. And even when Kamala Harris was running, we knew that conversations about race were going to come up. And the beautiful thing about it is that she's made a point not to entertain it as much because she knew. And even Republicans like Nikki Haley has even said, I mean, she's of Indian American descent. Look, she said it, don't talk about her race. Like, a lot of people just said, don't make this a thing. And I think there were some media that really wanted to lean into it because Trump made some of his antics at conferences and conventions and whatnot and said some things. And I think about this the same way with the gender situation, where you start seeing people really get real sexist and really begin to just have these weird, remarks. And even by some women in the conservative space have said some very sexist things. Internalized misogyny is real. And this is nothing new. And so, it's sad in some ways that people have to, Democrats, specifically the Harris, campaign, has to counter that in ways that might feel a little forced, but is still genuine, because I think there's a lot of men that support Harris, but they have to come out and say a lot more. They have to show it even more, because it's sad that, because if they don't even louder, sadly, the impression would be that they're not.
Yeah.
And that's the sad part. I mean, it's a good thing for the campaign. It's a good thing that it's happening, and people should, but it's such a shame that our society, that elections and the way we have become, that we will automatically presume the worst. I mean, Black men, for example, is just unfairly and just so disgustingly being the center of the conversations around the Harris administration struggling with Black male voters. Like, there was a very annoying article that I read in the New York Times today.
No
that
way.
was talking about Georgia, right? And it was a reporter was saying that Black, Kamala, the headline kind of frames it like she's still struggling with Black male voters. But then the subtitle says, although most Black men is in favor of the Harris administration, there are some Black, and it's like, well, there you have it, right? Why are we still fixated on Black men in this election like this? Historically, Black men have overwhelmingly voted majority Democrat, period. There's never been this extreme right-wing, like every time we have this conversation, it is so intellectually dishonest. And yet this demographic of men are having to overemphasize and let it be known in fear of being mischaracterized in the media. And it's so disgusting. Interesting enough, we don't hear enough conversation about Latino voters. Like, Latino voters, I think, are very interesting to observe right now. Like, Latino voters, it's very interesting. Even in Texas, even in Florida, like how they're voting right now, and in figuring them out. There's not enough coverage of them, or even white women. We don't hear enough white women being covered about how they're going to vote. There's just always been this broad stroking of Roe v. Wade, women's issues. But when we look at the demographic of women voters, white women still is a tough sell. Even when there was the Show Up for Kamala campaigns and women's answering the call, the poll numbers don't show a strong uptick. That there's still a demographic that if there was a higher percentage of white women that voted for Harris, this election will be over. And so it's just interesting how certain demographics are being over-indexed in this election versus others. Magic Johnson is coming out. He's going to Michigan, actually, to really rally for Harris, which is good. Yeah. We're seeing Harris on some very interesting podcasts that are not the traditional political type of podcast.
This is what people are watching and listening to, though.
She was on a really good one with two Black men, former NBA players, but they're also influencers. And now she's on podcasts like that. So she's putting in the work. I just wish that a lot of us would have these conversations about the level of misdirected or misguided attention we're giving to certain demographics over others.
I agree with you on that. I think, and inside of that, I think all of the demographics, and if we're going to cross the spectrum of men, just to stay on men for a second, it was really nice to listen to both of you on that. It is something we haven't asked men to do before.
Right.
I know we take it for granted that women will vote for a woman, and that's not necessarily the case. And,
right.
And from the workplace, we'll tell you there are women misogynists in positions of power in the workplace, and they are the worst. So to deal with it, to come up against, just because it's so shocking and jarring. But that aside, women aside, we'll work at just focusing on men for a minute. We are, as a nation, asking men to do something they've never done before, vote for a woman president. And it is an interesting issue. And I think in an interesting confrontation and a confrontational time. I mean, we did that with Hillary. I apologize for that. Hillary's got that from us. She was such a known entity and political. I mean, when you're from what was basically she and her husband created a dynasty between them. Yeah. So it was, to me, that is a little bit different than this moment now, because it's really upon us. And we didn't get it done the last time. We just didn't. We didn't get it done with her. So having men show what was so compelling to me about that Bruce Springsteen video is that he showed how to speak from the heart. Like that was the roadmap. The roadmap is just, this is how you can be me, Bruce Springsteen. I'm going to show you how I can stay true to Bruce Springsteen, speak from my heart. It takes an artist and a songwriter maybe to help, because that's all they do, right? Is write from the heart. And show you how this is done and how what it looks like. What does this look like? That to me is the biggest piece of this. Magic Johnson going out, being Magic Johnson, and saying, this is what it looks like. Just to be who I am. Like, he's not looking or sounding any differently because he's saying vote for Kamala Harris. He's not all of a sudden like not the greatest of all time. He's not, his personality's not changing. He's not, nothing. It's just showing that. And I can tell you the reasons why. I can speak about what's important to me personally without denigrating you if you're not in the same place. We're going to talk like adults, because we're not getting that from the political leaders. We're just, majority being Republican, we're just not getting that kind of just plain spoken, speak from the heart, male energy. We're not getting it. And from leaders. And so that it is what's needed. I mean,
that's why Walsh has been so effective, I think, to your point.
Yes.
You know, because he came out of nowhere. For those of us who don't live in Minnesota, it's just like, they make this guy in a lab. Like, what the hell, you know?
But he's been a coach. He was a leader in the military. He's, was a teacher. He's a governor. So he knows how to speak to people.
He does.
And say, come follow me. If you don't, that's okay. But if you do, here's where we're headed. I just think we haven't had that. It's crazy to think we haven't had that, but we really haven't had that. It's another thing that Donald Sr. robbed from our society, from the discourse. It's that kind of just normalcy.
And maturity. I think maturity is they're all such children now. So, okay. So that's the end of topic 4. So now we're officially into the announcements part of the show. Okay. So, Ernest, you have a very cool kind of announcement that we were talking about before. Yeah.
So, of course, my book,
The Case for Cancel Culture.
Yes, we love talking about. Such a great time.
And I match. I hope you appreciate that.
I like the colors of that book.
I put purple really nice on for you.
Oh, I appreciate that. It is my baby. And been traveling and talking about it. And I was on Dr. Phil Primetime last month, late September, on the show. It's aired. It's online. Marriage Street TV, Marriage Street Media. You can watch it for free on his station or his channel he has, but it's available online to watch. And it was quite the topic. We were talking about cancel culture. I served as like an expert on the show. So if anybody watched the Dr. Phil show, he has like these experts that like talk while he brings his guests. And it was quite a very, definitely a right-wing experience, I must say. Yeah. He interviewed Trump recently.
Sorry.
Wow, it's like Frost Nixon all over again.
Yes.
Bless you.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
It would make you sneeze.
Yeah.
I watched the interview, and I can't guess. Maybe I could predict, but I sense that he might be a Trumper. I don't know.
You think?
It's giving Trump. It's giving
Honestly,
Trump.
when you were talking about this before, I got Dr. Phil confused with my pillow guy. In my brain, they're the same person. I know they're not, but in my brain,
the mustache is that maybe
same energy.
Very much so. Very
yeah.
And it was interesting. So one of the segments of the show, there was basically I was on the show analyzing several individuals who claimed they were canceled. And it went from a woman who was completely like she gave conservative energy, like she wants to do restroom trans bans and things of that nature. And she goes viral for taking a picture of a trans person in a woman's bathroom, is how she framed it. And was very, her language is very just problematic. And she claims she's canceled by Planet Fitness because of the fact that she pretty much violates, they're called kind of like, you don't go in a bathroom taking a picture of someone, like who does that? And then claim that you're terrified and you're freaked out, but at the same time you're taking a picture of this person who isn't doing anything harmful, and you're completely not respecting privacy.
And it's in the private moment. You're not supposed to have cameras in bathrooms.
Brought a cell phone and posted it online.
Oh my God.
And did a whole video about how she felt she was canceled.
So, as we know,
yeah,
consequences for bad behavior to conservatives, to MAGA, means cancel. But yes, that's what we learned.
And we talked about this in my book about this type of divorcing themselves from accountability. So rather than acknowledge you were wrong, you want to act like you're canceled for being yourself and
like Tina, whatever. What is What is the woman who was the county clerk?
Yeah, I was going to say Tina Peters got canceled. 9 years of cancel.
Got canceled by the judge. Woo! I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah.
Ernest. Yeah.
Right. A shit show. And so that kind of stuff, always grinds my gears. But then the big one was that there was a young man on there named, I believe his name was Bobby, and he's a minor. Goes to a Catholic school. He tries to run for a student government position, like a student council position, where basically you're in charge of school spirit. And he's running to make his school great again. He's wearing a red type of MAGA hat, but it says make, and he insert the school's name great again. And he's got this speech where he's throwing jabs at like Colin Kaepernick in many ways, making references about people need to appreciate the flag and pledge allegiance, and give a pledge of allegiance. It's very, Trump Jr.-ish.
Yeah.
And so the school basically tells him that he needs to edit his speech, like take certain things out that they felt like was a little not appropriate for this type of middle school setting. He feels like he's being censored from being patriotic. He feels like he's being canceled. And, he's not allowed to give the speech at the school, but he videotapes himself giving it. It goes viral on social media. Libs of TikTok is praising it. Elon Musk is praising him. And he feels like he's this unspoken hero. And his parents are like, pushing this out there. So I don't address the child because, he's a minor, but I felt like it's his parents, right? That clearly the hat, the Trump-esque font, the rhetoric, that his parents are influencing him. And so while they're acting like he's just being ostracized from his school, I'm like, as parents, that the school was trying to clamp down on the polarizing politics. They're in a very diverse school. It's going to carry a different type of message. And Dr. Phil says back to me pretty much that, well, the only, no one would have an issue with this if it weren't you.
See, that's the button right there.
Right.
We were talking about this before the show, and I'm like, whoa, that's the thing. It wouldn't be an issue if you weren't here.
Right. So here I am getting reduced, to being the problem. And so I said to him that he's being intellectually dishonest. And I tell him how trying to ignore the elephant in the room, the GOP elephant in the room, that you're making a big, you're ignoring how offensive this can read and how these symbols play into effect. I have a 14-year-old brother. If he would have saw a fellow classmate in school with a red hat like that, talking like that, it would probably be a problem. There would be some discourse, and there were people in the audience who was trying to disagree. But I made the point that if we as adults in the room can't have a civil conversation or interrupting each other, then do you think that a school would want to have that kind of divisiveness over a student government position, where really if you're in student council, you're worried about bake sales and school spirit? What does this have to do with that? And so it was a very interesting episode.
All right, so we're going to encourage everybody to go look that up.
Yeah,
and watch you.
I think the parents might have been involved with the whole Colin Kaepernick business. The kid's 11, 12 years old. Colin Kaepernick, what is he? 3 o'clock. He was in the crib watching Colin Kaepernick beat the Packers in Green Bay. Come on.
Like making these shots about, standing up for the Pledge of Allegiance. Like this, I'm like, what is this? A baby JD Vance? Like, come on. Like, who's watching? Like,
sorry for those kids.
They're forcing that. Yeah.
They're just in their environment, just absorbing all of that. And it's so
that's why I feel sorry for young kids like that who are in environments where their parents is teaching them that behavior, which is why I tell people that, they'll say, oh, this new generation of people are more progressive. They're more this, they're more that. Yeah, they still got the parents, right? They still got parents. Like when I went to Penn, I was involved. I mean, listen, you know who was on the campus when I was there? Tiffany Trump.
Oh.
I was a senior when Tiffany Trump was a freshman, I believe. And Biden's granddaughter was also at Penn or coming into Penn right when I left. I don't think everybody on that campus was progressive. JD Vance is only a couple years older than me.
Oh, no. At Penn? No, not at
Penn, but just JD Vance is like about 8 to 7 years older than me. Wow. I'll be 33 on October 12th.
Wow, he's that young.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Yeah. Happy birthday.
So we're not that far. So when people try to make these generational narratives about the generations, we do skew more, but we still have some bigots and people that believe in trad wives and all that nonsense.
Like, the Theo bros are all millennials. So
they're all millennials.
Whatever. Gen X, Gen X is the most Trumpy generation, and it's really fucking embarrassing.
It is.
It's a disgrace, and the only way we can atone for this disgrace is for the first Gen X president to be elected in November, which would be
a black woman.
Yeah. All of the things that we like.
All of the things.
You get to claim it.
All of the things.
We're gonna
all right, we have an announcement, Ernest, that we want to let you know about.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes.
And everybody else.
Yeah. And we said this last week, but we'll say now it's really official though. I mean, yeah.
Now it's really. Do you have something to show? Did we load
Well,
it up?
I don't, because it doesn't do the thing. But
oh no.
No. I was very smart, sort of. Now posted into the 5-8 community page is the link about the event that we're doing.
Okay, great.
There's the GIF that Chunk made, and there's the link to go buy tickets to our live event, the first ever 5-8 live event in New York City. KGB, the Sunday after the election, November 10th.
November 10th?
Yep. Be there or be, I don't know.
Just be there. Ernest, you must come. The next day, that Monday, is a holiday.
It's Veterans Day, yeah. So.
And it's just a short train ride into the city.
What time is it?
7:30. The doors open 7:30.
Okay.
Yeah.
I teach, so
we're not going to make you commit to this on a live show. It's okay.
Okay.
What she means is that we would love for you to come. That's all. That's all.
Send me the details.
Obviously, we would expect you to come. You don't live.
Okay, we'll send you the details.
Email me the details. I might try. I'm gonna try.
Okay.
I will.
That'd be amazing.
Anyway, okay. Show your book one more time before we release you. Okay, just make sure. The case for cancel culture. Yeah, and you could read your work at Eater Family and at Philadelphia Magazine, and come back on after the election. We can celebrate, hopefully.
Oh, I cannot wait!
Oh my God, I know it's going to be great. It's going to be great.
I'm packed. Right. I think that's the thing, because I have an event on that night, that Saturday night, the 9th in Philly. We're having a big old gala And so we scheduled it. My organization, I'm the president of the Philadelphia Association of Black Journalists. And so we're doing our 50th anniversary. We're 50 years old, history. We're the oldest Black journalism association in America. We predate the national organization. We predate all those.
Oh,
it
wow.
started in Philadelphia in 1974. And so we're having our 50th anniversary gala. Yeah. So it's going to be a really great celebration. We're having at the Penn Museum. Last year we had at the Museum of American Revolution. So we're very, historic over here in Pennsylvania and Philadelphia, especially. So mentally, my mindset was that the election is looking really good. Would it be nice that weekend, the first weekend, to celebrate a cocktail and all the drinks? So who knows what we'll be doing November 10th? But
we're going to be drowning ourselves in one or the other.
We're going to drink no matter what. That's clear.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyway, all right. Have a good weekend, Ernest. Thanks so much for coming on.
You too. Thank you.
Bye, Ernest.
He's great. I love him. It's great when he's on.
Yeah.
Great when he's on.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have any other announcements? Do you have any other announcements?
No, that's it.
Yeah.
That's enough.
I've got, Gareth Gore was on my podcast.
That was great.
And, his book is out. It's all it's about Opus Dei and the human trafficking and the dark money and all this. It's even worse than I thought. It's really fucked. Anyway, we really don't want these guys to be in charge. But all right, we've got one more topic.
We got one more topic.
And
go for it.
Okay, so we were talking before the show.
Yeah.
About Trump the man, Trump the person. And kind of, especially in comparison to Springsteen, right?
Yeah.
Like, who is this guy? Who's Trump?
We still don't know.
We still don't really know. Like J.D. Vance, and emptiness there. So what we know about him is he's a shitty neighbor. He's a shitty,
the worst neighbor. Just as a person, what Trump? Not Trump, the celebrity, the manufacturer. Like, what do we know about this guy as a person?
Mm-hmm.
As a person.
Yeah. Okay. Shitty neighbor.
Shitty neighbor. The worst. His neighbors hate him.
Shitty partner. Shitty boss.
The worst.
Shitty uncle. Shitty dad. Shitty husband, certainly. Probably shitty grandpa, I would think. If he can name all of his grandkids and their birthdays and how old they are, I would be very, very surprised. Just shitty human being who cheats all the time.
Shitty New Yorker. Shitty New Yorker.
Shitty New York. Oh, awful New Yorker. Just, and then we were talking about this, okay? And this is the funny part. So we're talking about this and we're like, even Jeffrey Epstein stopped talking to Trump after that real estate deal went south in Florida because he felt like Trump dicked him over. And Epstein was like, what are you doing, dude? You can't, fuck you. I'm not going to deal with this guy.
Friend. Like even Jeffrey, we made this point, like even Jeffrey Epstein had a best friend.
And we got to do the graph.
All right, let's do it.
Okay.
At least Epstein.
Say what you will about Jeffrey Epstein, but at least Epstein, what was the first one?
Had a best friend. Does Trump have a best friend? He's got no friends. No one likes the guy. He's got no best friend.
Who's his friend? Like Sergei Kislyak? Come on. That's crazy.
We don't know.
We don't know.
There's never been who is his Lindsey Graham to John McCain? We don't know.
Maybe it's Giuliani. I don't know. At least Epstein was respected by prominent people. Because nobody respects this guy.
That's true.
I mean, no one respects the guy at all.
Yeah, people wanted to hang out with Jeffrey Epstein.
Hold on, wait. People are saying
Donald Sr. But no one wants to hang out with Donald.
Jen, you're right. Okay, Walt Nauta. That's funny. But here's the thing. Walt Nauta is his servant. He's his servant. That's how Trump looks at that guy. It's not his friend. It's his servant, like his caddy. It's not the same thing. It's not an equal relationship. So at least Epstein was a self-made man.
That's true.
It is. It's true.
I mean, I think he had some intelligence services helping him out.
Well, yeah, but he started he started from nothing. Right. Trump had mob. It's the same thing.
Yeah, he started from nothing.
Okay, I got two more, and maybe you have more after. Okay, so
I don't.
Okay, at least Epstein went to jail when he was convicted. He did.
That's right.
He didn't really stay. negotiated.
Twice he went to jail.
You know, he negotiated his stuff, but and
Yeah,
then finally,
say that.
at least Epstein knew when it was time to say goodbye. You know, he didn't overstay his welcome, did he? Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
so that we're talking about this, and it's like, seriously, and we're joking about it, we're making light of it, but seriously, Epstein seems to be a more normal and better human than Trump. Epstein, who's one of the most evil motherfuckers that this country has ever produced, still kind of normal compared to Trump.
I mean,
right? Am I wrong?
You're not wrong.
And like, would you want Trump to be your neighbor?
No.
Would you want him to be like the president of your co-op board?
No.
No. Would you want him to like date your daughter? No. Would you want to enter a business with him? If I was away one week, would you want Trump to co-host 5-8?
No.
No. I wouldn't want to play golf with him. I wouldn't want to talk to him because he's an idiot. Like, there's no human.
All we know is that he cheats. We could,
Yes.
like,
At everything. Always.
always.
Mm-hmm. He's just a cheater. I mean, there was an article in 2019 in Golf Magazine by Rick Riley talking about how he cheated at golf, how Trump cheated at golf. And it's one of those articles. It's just, it's like the Adam Davidson Baku article. It's like, here's someone who wrote about this years and years ago that everyone just moved on from.
Yeah.
Just,
But what was interesting, I'm glad you brought up that article. What's interesting about that, as opposed to the Baku was all about a business deal. Okay, we know. I clearly have unpacked all of his, and not even close to all of it, but a tremendous amount of his organized crime ties and the business partners he's had and all that. That's all transactional, business. And to people that come in and say, well, yeah, he knew about that, but that's the way that's all like, this is a guy operating in this particular world that he was born into. And there's all different kinds of ways that people operate in that, but basically there's some general brushstrokes. He's within the brushstrokes of that. That doesn't tell us anything about who he is as an individual, a person. Right. What is his personhood? What is his fetal personhood? Right? What is it? And we don't have. We have all of the assaults on women. That's about his personhood.
Yeah, he's a sexual predator. We know that for sure.
He's a sexual predator. We know that. He's an adjudicated rapist. We know that. He's a criminal.
Absolutely.
But we don't know any normal things about him that would matter in any other presidential candidate. We don't even really know if his marriage is real. We don't know how she got here on her weirdo visa. We don't, and why that worked. And it was all supposed to be, every time there was a question about him or something that was seemingly coming from him, it was all going to be revealed. We never saw his tax returns. We don't know anything about how he operated as a private person, except for the people who were brave enough to speak and say the things that happened with them in private with this guy. And all of, from the women to people like Noel Castler, we don't, it's all in dispute or not covered or not treated as something that's important to know. And I think that's because every single journalist that has looked at it, and I know it's like you're not supposed to hit up at journalism, but we got to hit up because they're the ones, the only vetting of a presidential nominee, the only vetting comes from first the party and then journalists. That's their role. There is no security clearance that these guys have to go through. We don't get any of the information out of intelligence agencies or Department of Justice if they have any kind of criminal background or anything. It's all memory hold down. So if we're not going to have journalists vetting, actually going saying, this is what we know about him. And we have some things we know about that he is a terrible neighbor. We know those things that you listed because there was a journalist willing to write that. And then we never hear about it again. That's so abnormal and so wrong on so many levels. It's just, it used to matter. Character and so who someone was as a person used to matter. How they were in their lives before putting their hand out for your vote used to matter.
Yeah.
I don't know. And it seemed to disappear with this guy. It really did disappear with him.
I mean, maybe this is a way to frame it. Like if you're, maybe, I don't know, maybe this is a way to talk to people like, you know, these voters that are undecided. Like if your life is on the line, let's say something happens and you wind up in jail and you think you're innocent, you want a pardon, and you want the person in charge, you want to appeal to the person in charge and make your case for the pardon. Who do you want to appeal to? Do you want to appeal to Biden? You want to appeal to Harris? Or do you want to appeal to Trump? Who's going to treat you fairly in that situation? Who's going to show mercy on you in that situation? And not just be like, well, let the cops have their hour with you beating the fuck out of you. You know, or take out a full page ad in the New York Times calling for your execution. You know, who do you want really to be on your side? Because at the end of the day, that's what the president is, and that's what the president does. You know, most things the presidents do don't affect us as individuals on a granular level, but you have to think about it that way. You know, who do you want to spend the next 4 years with? Listening to the voice of all that stuff. I don't know.
Right. And we've been through it with him. And so we know what to expect. And we can only expect worse because he's only gotten worse. And that's all there is to offer is worse. Terribleness.
Yeah.
But, and we all know that. Again, I think one of the things that has to, when there was just an article about this today of when it seemed like Trump was being a certain way out there. And then when someone went to sit with him at Mar-a-Lago and they got a completely different person, a completely different human being. And it's when people do have a one-on-one with him where he charms them, right? Or especially if they want to believe in him for some reason.
Right.
Yeah. Then they walk away from that experience. Some of them walk away in horror, right? All the people who served for him, but they won't come out with their stories. They won't tell us what he really is like. They just warn, and they're also not, many of them are full throat endorsing Kamala Harris, which is great, but tell us what he said. Tell us what he did. You were there with him as a person. So those generals I'm totally disappointed with. It seems like it's just the young women, and the women on around Mark Meadows and that were staff that are willing to say, well, he lunged for this guy and tried to choke him. Like, we're getting the stories about his personhood. He threw ketchup on the walls. But for other people that spend time in his presence and want something from him, or want to sort of like appreciate him in some way or get to know him in some way, and they walk away from that experience looking at how he has been covered by, not necessarily covered, but how we have reacted to him as what we think is his personhood. And they had a totally different experience. And it just cements this sort of vilification of people who, like us, who are having a reaction to the things that he's doing that are so obscene.
Yeah.
So personhood is important. And I would, it's time to start hearing these stories.
Yeah.
It's time to start hearing the stories of the things that he said and the things that he did. We're only getting them through the Jack Smith filing for the immunity against the ruling documents. That's where we're getting to hear where the actual words that he uses in private in these events that we're all watching, like, who cares?
Yeah.
Right. The phrase against Mike Pence. So if we have to just wait for a case to be brought up in front of the public and allowed to go through with the Supreme Court, who's trying to make sure that doesn't happen, then, I'll cross my fingers that we get to that day, because then I think we'll finally have everybody will finally have a clear and undisputed view of who this man is.
If this was a movie, the PP tape would be released like on November 1st. That's what would happen in the movie. It's a long arcing movie, an epic. Started in 2016, but I think that, you know,
and the Mark Burnett tapes and the
Yeah.
Apprentice tapes that got
Yep.
another thing that just vanished.
now in the memory hole, because he's not gonna give it up. Today, by the way, one last thing before we go. Today it was this did come out that he was talking during some fancy dinner with some rich. Everyone at that dinner is a horrible human being.
Yeah.
Horrible disgrace of a human being.
Yeah.
Joking about the woman.
Billionaire sycophants are the worst of the sycophants.
Yes.
Oh, nice.
Joking about the woman whose husband died in the shooting in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
He said, well, you know, when I gave her the check for $1 million to try to, you know, she said, well, this is very nice, but I wish it was, you know, my husband was still alive instead. And he's like, well, I know a lot of women here wouldn't say that. You know, he's using her as a fucking setup to a joke. And the guy brought her there and his daughter. And it's just sad and it's disgraceful. And but we know about that. So maybe, you know, maybe the
well, that's an actual recording that the Daily
maybe
Beast
we're gonna have
has.
more recordings.
So maybe we'll have more recordings. We need to hear him, what he's like.
The October surprises.
Maybe that'll be another one. I don't know that anyone in MAGA land will care. They don't care about how he denigrates them. Again, the buried lead on that, as it has been this whole time, is he flew to that thing on Jeffrey Epstein's jet. He's still flying around on the jet that has the cameras put in it, that's wired up, that was used to blackmail. Why does he need to be on that private plane? Really, truly, I don't think there's ever been we're never going to have more private jets available for people than we do right now. This is like you trip over them. I'm in a little, you know, tiny little mountain town, private jets, 3 airports, private jets everywhere. It's a private jet bonanza. Why does this guy have to use Epstein's jet? Why?
Of all the PJs and all the hangers and all the world. It's a good point.
And why did he all of a sudden start using that jet after he met with the Russian McFuck on the tarmac on his plane? That's what happened.
That is what happened. Yeah. I don't know. Because I'm going to go with he's a fucking Russian asset is what I'm going to go with. So, you know, prove me wrong. I don't know. But you know what? At the end of the day, what we know is no matter what happens and come what may,
we're going to get through it.